Hello everyone. After a long time, we are live on Pixstory, and we're back with our favorite topic, which is health and wellness. And everybody is talking about gut health. So we have an expert with us. So let's welcome her. Hi, Ishi. Welcome to Pixstory. And after a long time, I'm saying now we were
Looking forward to this live session. We had some little technical delays, but all set now.
I was telling them that how we're going to discuss gut health, which is our favorite topic, and I guess everybody else's. First, Ishi ma'am doesn't need any introduction. She is one of the top nutritionists in the country. She's an author. She's written very widely, and she is one definitely an expert on gut health and gluten. This is her new book. She's written 5 already. I think this is now the 6th.
This is the 5th.
Oh, this is the 5th. I've already signed you up for the next one. So, this is 4G Code to Good Health. I was telling Pixstory users. And we're going to talk about this book. And we have a lot of questions also that we've asked the viewers to send us. I mean, the general curious, because what we tend to do, we tend to ask our questions and, we get into the nitty-gritty of things. But this time what we've done, we've asked the readers, asked the viewers, Pixstory users, people following Ishi, we have asked them to send us questions. So we're going to discuss the book and we're going to take those questions, and also we can take live questions also.
Wonderful.
So Ishi, welcome back. And let's talk a little bit about your book.
Yes. So the 4G Code to Good Health, the 4Gs are gut, gluten and glucose. And this was a culmination of a lot of experience in the last 30 years of what was really plaguing people and keeping them away from getting their desired results with respect to their health outcomes, whether it was their weight or whether it was their diabetes or skin conditions, etc. So we basically have always believed, and we've been trained in the philosophy and in the belief that you are what you eat. What you eat, meaning that was what was training in nutrition. How much you eat is also important, how you eat, and of course then we added when you eat. But the missing link was what you digest. And that was in the last 10 to 12 years of my practice, I realized that was really the game changer. And we were keeping people away from sustainable approaches to good health simply because we were treating everybody almost like the same, that this individual and the other and everything should work the same way with everybody. We realized people are different, and their gut, and that means their digestive power was different, and that was keeping people from not being able to manage their appetite, cravings, and then also having digestive problems. So all of those things became clearer, that it was a sort of intolerance to certain foods. And when we figured that it was one of the grains which was really a big culprit, we believed that only those people who had celiac disease needed to be off wheat. But bit by bit, we realized that even if you don't have celiac disease, you are reacting to certain grains, including wheat, adversely. And the whole new entity also simultaneously with my practice, research became much more clear on this, and lots of new papers were published on what we call now non-celiac wheat sensitivity. And that was to do, or it was non-celiac gluten sensitivity. That was what was the name earlier. Now it's shifted to wheat. So then, when you practice and put it in, people's lives, we realized they were really changing not only their weight or their diabetes, but so many other things. So then the whole narrative shifted to gut, that if the gut is addressed, if we are able to build up the good microbiome, and if we're able to eat according to what is suitable for these little bacteria, we are able to really reverse things, not only get them better or improve, but we're able to reverse things. So that's how this book came up, that what is important is to look at digestive health, and the negative impact of digestive health was inflammation. So how to keep the diet, which is good for the gut and keeps the inflammation low. And therefore, I said it was gut gut, which was all about the reducing inflammation from the circumference of your the gut is inside and outside is the belly, which was also inflammatory. And then the triggers were really about grains, and gluten was one of the biggest ones, and sugars. So sugars, glucose was really a coded name for sugars, which can come from sugar directly through sweets or through fruits or through even grains. Yeah, things like rice and all the grains are only one step away from sugar. So essentially, we put that as these are the most powerful inflammatory. They cause inflammation, and if you address them, they have anti-inflammatory powers. So you eat the right kind of grains, and you eat the right quantity of grains. You manage your belly, you manage your gut, and you have a recipe for good health. So that's how the 4Gs came up. And just somebody asked me, why didn't you call it 5G? With that question is inevitable in most forums, and so I say that yes, 5G is certainly lots of it was G, and then I said all the 5Gs. I mean, the fifth G is all that you don't see. It's literally God and the power of the divine and the genes which are invisible. So let them live.
Yeah. That's been there. But Ishi, coming back to these grades, I mean, we've always been told that what you've been eating traditionally. I mean, I've spoken to you also over these years, and you've always said that what your grandmother used to eat, that is the best food for you. But we have, as Indians, at least in some parts, not me particularly, because I come from area where rice is staple, but for a lot of Indians, wheat has always been staple. So, generations of Indians have been eating wheat. So how can this, this question is very obvious. People ask us that our forefathers were eating wheat. Everybody was. So why this issue of sensitivity now? Why are we talking about, and why hasn't it happened over centuries or over generations, and it's happening now?
Yes, there are two reasons. In fact, somebody just told me, "Oh, you're against wheat. Or are you against it?" I said, "Look, I'm not against anything. It's what foods are against us now. I have nothing against wheat. We were all brought up on wheat, and we, as a population across the globe, have been fed by wheat. So how can or why should we be against wheat unless you have, a serious problem with it, or you're an allergic person? But what has happened is we have lost tolerance to modern wheat. We have lost tolerance to many grains because of that. And because of that, we've also lost tolerance. Many of us have lost tolerance to many other things, including dairy. So it's not that those are bad things. Milk, for instance, is a wonderful food. Milk is a complete food. You can bring up your baby on milk and it's a complete food, virtually almost complete food. But it's not the milk which has gone bad. Milk has also changed. But our ability to deal with it is the biggest difference. And in wheat, I would say that there is another aspect, which is that wheat, again, is not what it used to be before the 1960s in India. The post-Green Revolution changes in the wheat to increase the productivity have had some unfortunate consequences also, besides saving the world from hunger and from malnutrition. It has created problems which have become counterproductive and in fact caused more problems than we set out to correct. So then what I'm going to that, but all of that all of that is mentioned in the book, The 4Gs. What
No,
are
because this is one question that people generally ask, and I thought, this can be a forum to address it. So you're basically saying that wheat has changed genetically because we know that, certain grains have been modified and
has been has
modified.
changed. It has been deliberately changed for giving more activity. But with the result, the chromosomal changes have resulted in it becoming more immunogenic. It has an yeah. So thing is that this question is often asked as to why only wheat, because lots of foods have been tampered with, and productivity and the quality has improved and changed, etc. But wheat is among the 8 allergens. Among the 8 allergens which are known include eggs, nuts, shellfish, tree nuts, and fish and soya, and wheat is one of them. So I think we tampered with an allergen, known allergen, and maybe it has now become even more potentially harming more people than expected. And I don't think that was something which anyone wanted, but it has happened by default. And I know that there is also higher gluten content in modern wheat. So these are facts which are known and documented, and these are traits which we were, like I said earlier, were being used favorably by the industry for making better products, but nobody realized that it was going to cause adverse reactions to a product.
I think this was the most important thing, because this entire debate, this question puts everything in perspective. And people who raise questions, why we? I think we have answered that question today for our general audience. So maybe we can go back to the basic thing, what people say, that we are talking about gut health. Everybody is talking about gut health. So what is gut health? And why is it so important?
Why is it so important? So in my book, I've also mentioned that literally gut is the control panel. Because all practitioners of traditional medicine and traditional health philosophy revolved around digestion. It was us who, in our scientific temper and our scientific approach, they ignored this aspect. Whether we have Ayurveda or Unani or homeopathy or naturopathy, everyone focused on digestive health. And today, modern science has also documented that this is where it makes the difference between who is what in terms of whether mentally, physically, emotionally, whoever we are is determined by our gut. And this is mediated through what we call the gut microbiome or the microflora. This microflora, actually, there are trillions of 150 trillion organisms residing in the gut and, of course, other parts of the body as well. But these microorganisms are in a state of balance, which is symbiosis. These are bacteria, fungus, and viruses in a state of happy balance. But a lot of things can get out of order. This balance is important to maintain, the right nutrition. So what foods are going to give us what nutrition is one thing, but what is going to get absorbed is decided by these microflora, right? So right from the nutritional aspect to the inflammatory aspect to the genetic aspects, which means which genes are going to be turned on and turned off is also determined by these microorganisms. Our immune system, whether I'm going to be sick or healthy, is also being controlled by these microorganisms. So in a certain way, we are eating for these bugs.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So there are about 3 kind of food
and which they don't like. If we eat chemicals, if we eat sweeteners, if we eat pesticides, if we eat medicines, everything which is synthetic does not agree with these microflora, and they go out of balance. And over a period of time, they cause what we call low-grade systemic inflammation throughout the body, And everybody who's listening must understand that low-grade systemic inflammation is a starting point of all diseases that we are facing today. All diseases, right from when I say diabetes, or whether it's PCOD, or whether it's hair fall, head to toe, every cell will get affected negatively with low-grade inflammation. So heart disease, malignancies, mental health, everything. So we have to control the happiness of these hormones, of these microorganisms, because they also control the hormones. So like somebody just said, so I think we are more our microorganisms than human, which is actually a fact. So if we treat them well, we will be happy. Antibiotics. Biotics means things which are living. So if we kill them through these medicines, we are setting the stage for dysbiosis or imbalance in the flora, which then sets the stage for immunocompromised situations. And a whole, like I said, everything that we are really facing today, whether it's even thyroid disorders and, from head inside out, head to toe. So I'm not saying medicines can be wished away. When medicines are very important, but they should be used very prudently and minimally. For common colds, I see people having just popping in courses of antibiotics. For virals, they have to pop in antibiotics. Look at traditional forms of healing. We have a whole range of, in our Indian system, the Ayurvedic system, so many simple kitchen remedies are there. Homeopathy is there, which does not adversely react with the gut flora, keeps them happy. And of course, when it is needed, it is needed. We can't wish the pollution away. We can't wish the pesticides completely. So some amounts will be there, but at least what we put into our mouth is something which we can control. And the biggest disruptor of the microbiome today is now modern wheat. And that's the reason why we focused on gluten rather than just anything else.
So this time what we're trying to do, we're trying to ask many questions because we've discussed it. We also tend to go a little stereotypical. So we take questions which people are asking us. Somebody is asking that, how do you know what is bad gut health? For a common person, what is the first symptom that one should keep an eye on?
Yeah.
How do I know that my gut is bad?
First question, because it takes me to a very important point here, that a lot of people who have dysbiosis or an imbalanced gut are unaware that they have it because they don't have digestive symptoms. So you need not have a problem with your digestion. You may not have IBS or hyperacidity or reflux or constipation to have a dysbiosis in your gut or have an imbalanced gut. It can be manifested outside. Outside the gut could be anything, right from low-grade fever to immune system problems and to anything that we mentioned earlier. So look out for signs. Look out for signs in your body, physical signs. If you have a skin problem, hair problem, everything that is bothering you and not getting resolved with simple things is nagging. Whether you have an autoimmune problem or whether you don't sleep well, because even your melatonin is secreted in the gut and it is controlled by the microbiome. So if you're suffering from insomnia, you have to look at your gut, and it's as simple as that. So anything which is disturbed or disturbing your functionality physically or mentally, or you have a long-term illness or a chronic problem, it is your gut that you need. And very often, even difficulty in losing weight or gaining weight. All these are a part of the book, in fact. How do I know I have a bad gut? Some people are just not absorbing their food and unable to gain weight. And some people are unable to shake it off. Or some people are eating so little and yet, they are putting on too much weight. So those are all initial signs or, very easy signs that there is a problem. If you develop acne, if you have any skin condition, usually the answer will lie in the gut.
Can we, as a parent, if I ask you, how do I know whether my kids are getting affected? And how early can the allergy show?
Yeah, well, I would just like to say that it may not be truly accurate to call it an allergy, but we call it an intolerance. And yes, for common usage, it is treated like that. But children, you should see if they're growing well, they're achieving their height and weight, if they're not falling sick very often, and if they have a positive, uh, personality, if they're irritable or cranky or unable to cope with their routines or fatiguing too easily, and they look at their skin, their nails, their hair, and their appetite. And I think if you have even mouth, oral health, if you're having too many cavities and problems with your dental health, or even weak eyes, you need to look at it differently. Attention problems, ADD, ADHD, very, very common. And just sudden changes in weight also should be.
So somebody is asking, are there any specific foods? They had talked about gluten for sure because that's part of your book. Any other foods which can, which are adverse for gut health?
Yeah, so that's again a very good question, which gives me a chance to talk about a whole concept called cross reactivity. Cross reactivity is nothing but the body behaves in the same way as it behaves with wheat, with certain grains which don't have gluten. And these are corn, soy, what we know, corn, soya, oats, and to some extent even buckwheat and amaranth and sabudana. That, yeah. So these are it's also termed molecular mimicry. Yeah, and these are a very common part of gluten-free food or wheat-free food. So we know that particularly corn and soya are really, really nasty. And I see it all the time in my practice. And, there is a study which says that more than 50% of people who have celiac disease continue to have symptoms. That's because they only eliminate wheat. They have told medical practitioners clinic that, oh, you are allergic to wheat or you have a celiac condition and you need to be lifelong off wheat. So they obviously, in their innocence, they go on to corn or they go on to other grains and their symptoms never resolve. We see that in practice. So these are important conversations that need to be had initially when you go off wheat. And the other is secondary is dairy. I always call dairy as being on the fence. Some people tolerate it, some people don't. And again, dairy intolerance, since we are talking about it now, I will take that opportunity to differentiate between lactose intolerance and dairy intolerance. They're two different things. Lactose is the intolerance to the sugars in milk. And dairy intolerance encompasses everything from cheese, paneer, and dahi, because it is about the milk protein, which is the reason for problems. So this is something which, according to our data, about 50% or more people who have gluten intolerance also react adversely to dairy. So it's a case-to-case phenomena, and it's different from wheat.
And what are the, now that we have asked about the worst foods, what are the foods that help in restoring gut health and, reducing inflammation? These are the questions that people are asking.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to remove the trigger foods. Like I say, in Russia and Ukraine, there's a war going on, and unless and until Russia withdraws, the fire is on, the inflammation is on. So removal of trigger foods is very important, and then we rebuild. We have to rebuild Ukraine again. So we need a lot more resources. So we need to put back the nutrients. We also need gut support through improving the gut flora by probiotics and prebiotics. So food for the gut flora is prebiotics and fermented food. So put back those good things into the diet, restore the nutritional deficiencies which have happened, And
What kind of what we need?
but we need to assess, things like vitamin D levels, B12, iron. These are the common ones, magnesium, and so on and so forth. But do it under supervision, because you can go horribly wrong with partial information. The, so so that the nutrient intake has to be optimal also, and an anti-inflammatory diet. So essentially, we need to have good fats, which control inflammation, and we also need like I said, pre and probiotics, and sometimes we need more, the specific foods which are required
For a
to
common
build
person, what would pre and probiotics need?
pre and probiotic fiber-rich foods, whether it is fiber through vegetables or through fruits, and there are lots of technical names today, um, which I don't want to mention here because they're all there available. And prebiotics simply means good fiber for the food, and resistant starches. And fermented foods also work in a favorable way to multiply. So they may not be just probiotics. A curd, for instance, is a fermented food which will help the gut. But again, everybody is not a candidate for curd. So you may be having a very bad gut and you may not tolerate that probiotic.
Yes.
So it needs to be done under supervision, and then you also need to, like I said, build up on good food through good vegetable intake, lots of colors and phytonutrients. We call it the rainbow diet, or we also call a diet which is based on the half plate rule. At least half your plate should be full of colorful vegetables. So all vegetables and fruit in good quantity, and adequate protein, and controlling of sugars in processed food, and food with additives, and avoiding too much of alcohol. So these are the simple things which I think most people do understand today and are trying to put it in practice. And the world with superfoods is really loaded. Every other few weeks we see a new superfood, but I just feel at least people are bringing the focus back on these good foods. And in our context, particularly in India, we have such good superfoods, so to say, which are valuable. Like we have coconut, we have turmeric, we have tulsi, we have neem, we have curry leaves. They're part of our kitchen. We don't have to go and buy such expensive. The moringa, and we have beetroot, and so we don't have to go crazy. Even our berries, berries have a great role to play as they have very high levels of antioxidants and phytonutrients. But we don't have to look at very expensive berries. We can just look at our own amlas and cranberries, the corondas, etc. A friend of mine just presented me with a basket full of corondas. It's just loaded with antioxidants. You don't have to make it very complicated. So amla and cranberries and the falsas and the jamuns are also our berries. So incorporate those good high
So you don't have to go expensive to into your gut. You just have to go backwards, maybe go back to your
You need to dig out the information and the treasure that we have, which has been buried.
One very important thing is that how does one know that because these food sensitivity tests are not available everywhere. So how do we know that we are maybe if people living in other parts of maybe not in metros or big cities, but in other parts of the country there are no food sensitivity tests available. How does one take care of or get to know whether you are sensitive to certain foods?
That's
Elimination would
a practical question, and the answer is, even if you have tests available, sometimes they don't tell you everything. So they can be misleading. So the best way to do it is to really put an elimination process in for maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If you're suspecting food sensitivities, remove those foods completely for about 3 weeks or a month, and then put them back and see, is there a reaction? And very often I have patients who say, why is it I've become very sensitive to wheat now? Because I earlier used to have it and it never did anything to me. But now even if I have small amounts, it bothers. The fact is that it was bothering you even earlier, but in a very, not such an overt way. But when you remove it and you put it back and you have that, it is a clear-cut indication that you are reacting to something. And I give a very simple example here that mangoes, they go up out of season for 6 to 8 months, and you don't eat mangoes, and you put them back in your food, and nothing happens to you. You take out rice for a whole 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you put it back, nothing happens. But why does it happen with wheat? Or why does it happen with corn or soya? So there are, ways in which your body is telling you. And now it's becoming smarter in terms of communication. Earlier, it is just damaging you. So that's a very easy way of figuring out. Maintain our diet. Maintain so you can, if somebody's got a migraine or a headache, and see how many times in that elimination phase did you get the headache? How severe was it? Was it better? Did it go away? Did you eat something outside? Did it come back? So you will become much more aware of the triggers.
So, also we have people asking that how can I improve my gut health and anticipate digestive problem? Or some are saying, what are the gut healing drinks?
Well, as long as they don't have toxic ingredients, gut healing drinks could be so many, right from hot drinks to cold drinks, and even things like smoothies and soups, and everything is gut healing depending on what goes into it. A soup like a bone broth can be very healing, and a smoothie which is loaded with these superfoods and which has the right ingredients, maybe chia seeds and some coconut milk and some berries, some few dates, healing and healthy. So this is a very wide question, difficult to answer, but yes, if you're referring to probiotics and prebiotic drinks, then you have kefir and all kinds of, variations of these kind of buttermilk variations. It depends on who you are, but buttermilk may or may not suit you, so you have to see what works.
What about the commercially available the probiotic drinks? Are they good for your health?
Why not? Absolutely. But if they also are very sensitive to dairy, some of them may react adversely. But for the population, they are wonderful.
People are asking specific questions. Like somebody is asking, I'm having the burning sensation in my stomach as I'm a celiac patient. What should I?
I think she needs to look at the cross-reactive grains that we spoke about. And she needs to, it should not happen. And if there is a symptom which is persisting, the answer lies in setting the gut right. It needs a customized advice.
So somebody is asking if exercise can impact my gut health. I think that's a
more. Everything in the environment. These are little sensitive creatures inside. So exercise moderation will impact them positively. Excessive exercise can have a negative impact. And certainly and yoga and things which help the mind and calming down, practices like meditation and music also help restore the balance of gut flora. Certainly, yes.
Somebody is asking if there is a relation between gut health and skin health. I think you've answered that already. So you've said
the reflection. Your skin is a reflection of your gut.
Like you said, that hair loss and everything else can be related to one has to go into the.
Yeah, today if you read the book, we've spoken about the gut-skin axis and the gut-brain axis and the gut-lung axis and the gut-heart axis. All of these have been established now.
Somebody is asking from leaky gut, how do we know that when the gut is healed?
After eliminating gluten and dairy, usually it takes about, if you are very careful, healing can take anything between 1 year to 1.5 years. And you can put back the foods that you think you are sensitive to and see how you feel. And therefore, food diary maintenance is very, very critical.
So, the common symptoms that people show. It's like this frequent diarrhea. And so if it's not, how do we know that whether it's IBS or it's food intolerance?
The big IBS is nothing but just an irritated, inflamed gut. So it's just a symptom. So the cause could be a food intolerance for sure. So it's it's a manifestation of a food intolerance, or I should say food intolerance in a disturbed gut microbiome.
Another question somebody is asking, which you have already touched, maybe you can elaborate a bit. Is there a link between gut health and mental health? You talked about kids and their attention deficit.
Yes, and I see it in daily practice. You monitor the food and you see a happier person. And I'm going to add this here. Doing research, they now also actually in clinical practice, they are able to translocate fecal matter from one individual to the other. So they have people who are depressed, their gut flora put back into a happy person. So the happy person becomes depressed, and they done the other way around. The happy person's flora is put into the depressed person, he becomes happy. So that
can be done.
Sorry? Yeah, but
It-
it
that
becomes
can
everything who we are.
No, but I'm saying, since you say that you can actually interchange the gut flora, that can also be done. Is it a medical technique or what is it? Can gut health affect height of a child? What solutions are there? Somebody is just asking.
Absolutely. Growth failure is directly linked to problem, and is directly linked to hormonal problem, which can be rooted in the gut. It's one of the signs of a problem. Unless you have a problem in the pituitary or some other endocrine problems, very often we find this being the main reason.
So first, rule out the endocrinological part of it, and then we can look at food.
Yes. But I would say that even if it's an endocrine problem, setting the gut right is critical even then.
Somebody is asking that, is tea and coffee bad for gut health?
If they're not bad for gut health, in fact, they can be very good for gut health if they're taken in the right amount and at what stage. If you are really, really bad in your IBS problem, so caffeine can be irritant. But caffeine can also be protecting. So it depends on who you are, how much milk you're adding, how much sugar you're adding, and how frequently you're having it. So all of that counts. But as it is, they are not bad.
So maybe a black tea or a black coffee is better than with milk and sugar?
Certainly for people who are trying to get their
Somebody was telling me that coffee is good for your liver health also. Would that be true?
True, again, up to a point, too much can be detrimental, but up to a point.
How much is over?
Oh, I would say average person can consume about 2 cups of coffee a day and a cup of tea, or the other way around, 2 cups of tea and a cup of coffee. But too much of caffeine then can be irritating. And sometimes I must add here that people who are just dependent on taking tea, coffee and can't function without it is a red flag. Because if you need that much of coffee, you are in a state of fatigue, and that needs to be
Also water. We've always been told that drink certain glasses of water. Now there's also, some dietitians might tell you, no, drink as much as your body wants. There's no optimum. So is water also related, take of water related to your gut health?
Yes, of course. The functioning of the gut is dependent on water. 70% of our body is water. So everything will happen or not happen optimally if we have the right amount of hydration. Even transmission of nerve impulses requires water. So we do need to, cells need to communicate through water. So water is important. The question is how much of water is an individual. So there is no maths. And in fact, I think too much.
Yeah, enough. 8 glasses a day. Is that
Those are those are ballpark figures for average people. Some people need 16 and they're still good. And if I have 16, I'll be probably feeling completely out of it because I have low blood pressure and I have such a loss of sodium. So it all depends on who you are. And the one indicator is your color of urine. Are you passing urine adequately? And if the color of urine is not dark. If your color is dark, that means you're not having enough.
and very, very important question? And actually, this, but also another question people always ask is that, some people come up with these charts, mostly the influencers on Insta influencers who talk about health and wellness. So they'll say, okay, if alcohol ka 1 pint is okay, is alcohol ka 13 ml is okay. Is there an optimal level of alcohol, or alcohol is a no-go for gut health? These people always come up with these, maybe excuses.
Let me be very be very, very clear and candid on this, that alcohol irritates the gut. So if you're really bad with gut health and you're trying to heal, keep it out till you're healed. Very clear. And if you must, you can have wine in small amounts, but usually people lose tolerance to wine for some reason with people who have a bad gut, don't handle it too well. If you must and you are generally robust, it is all right. So 2 small drinks 2-3 times a week will not hurt. But to say that you need to have that alcohol to get some benefits, that's absolutely untrue. And we've said it all wrong earlier. So I think if you can stay away, stay that way. But if you want to enjoy, have a good time, keep it under moderation. 30 ml, and particularly for women, it increases the risk of breast cancer many times. So I think and everybody knows, a lot of people say, oh, nothing happens, I can tolerate large amounts. That's really not an indication of how much you should be doing.
Well, so somebody's asking,
May I
stress
also add here, Safik, that for those who are gluten intolerant, beer is a no.
Beer is no. Okay. And people always think, okay, beer is the softest drink that you can possibly have.
It was, like I said, there was nothing wrong with beer. There's something wrong with us that's happened, and for no fault of us.
Barley, I think barley has some barley in yeah. Barley also, it's like you can't have it.
One is gluten.
So somebody is asking, which is like, they always say that stress is related to gut health. Somebody is asking that how does stress affect me?
Like I just said earlier, there is a gut-brain axis. And we now know that if there is one message going from the brain to the gut, there are 9 from the gut to the brain. So that is how important it is to understand that your mood, your stress, your happiness is rooted in your gut. So it's a gut feeling.
So if you have to sum up the do's and don'ts of good gut health, what will you tell the viewers?
I would say that it is summarized in one of my books, Eating at Work. Here it is. It's got those 5 P's, and the first P is plan. Don't let your day just happen without any thought to what to eat, what you're going to get where, and when you're going to eat. So ensure that you have the right food around you, and what time you'll exercise, and what grains you're going to choose and not choose. And planning is an important part of getting to a good diet. And the second P is about peak hunger time. That means you must know when you are hungry. I think most people mess up at their peak hunger time, which is between 5 and 7. They are good in the breakfast time, they're good at lunch, and then 5 to 7 is just all hell breaks loose and they're eating. In my book, I call it the devil's hour. and all the junk and all the ordering in of the, the junk food happens around that time. So address that time and put in the best food that you want at that time.
What can be the best?
It could be your
Exactly.
grains, it could be, it could be your, when you're hungriest, you need carbs, so put your carbs there. Put your, your grains, whether it's millet or whether it is your rice or whether it's quinoa, whatever it is, put maximum amount of carbohydrate at that time because you're hungry. And it can be anything that you really like. It could be just rolls, it could be wraps if you're at work, it could be a dosa, it could be idli, or it could be a sandwich which is made with the right bread. So that is a time when you must eat well. And so that's peak hunger time. And then you have your third P, which is proteins. That, we've always talked in terms of carbs as the most important thing. I think in the current urban scene, we need to focus on protein, getting at it. So at least 2 meals should be around protein-rich foods. And these can be plant protein or animal protein, depending on who you are, your preferences, whether it's lentils or chilas or dals or sprouts, or whether it's egg, fish, chicken or dairy. Have 2 protein-centric meals. And the fourth P is pair those proteins with vegetables and or fruits. And lastly, you have the last P, which is protective foods. So dedicate 1 meal to protective foods. And when I say protective food, it means vegetables and fruits and sprouts and probiotics and prebiotics. So ensure that 1 meal is dedicated to at least 80-90% of vegetables and fruits. It could be soups and salads, it could be fruits, it could be a combination. So this is very easy. You can have a fruit breakfast or a salad lunch or a smoothie or a soup for dinner. So that is a very simple 5-step approach to get into a gut-friendly diet. And also ensure, of course, protective foods include our superfoods and our supplements and also water. And keep out the processed food, the alcohol, excessive sugars, etc., and the trans fats. And, I haven't spoken about the grains. So the cereals, which means it comes back to the planning stage, depending on who you are, whether how much rice or roti or bread or dosa or idli or pasta or noodles, whatever you need to eat as your grain, you can put it in any of the meals. All 3 meals, 2 meals or 1 meal, but make sure that it is before sunset.
So that's the time you said before 7. People are doing a lot of intermittent fasting. Does that help? 16 hours, some doing it 18
But
hours.
even intermittent fasting is ideally done in the right hours of eating. So like I said, if you put your hours of eating, say between 5 and on 11 or 12, that's not the time. So that's really, it won't give you the benefits of the fast, because you have to understand the timing for the body is extremely critical. The same food eaten in the first half versus second half behaves different, because our digestive health, our hormones, everything is in rhythm. There's a circadian rhythm. So loading up your machinery at a time when it is not ready for it will not allow you to get the benefit.
So people who skip breakfast and maybe start with lunch, is that okay, or you can extend the hours? It's fine.
But as long as what you chose is also very important, Gauri. So every what I call a reductionist approach, every part of our food and our principles, we tend to reduce it to something. It has to be a part of a healthy diet. Whatever you choose is also important. So like I began, I'm going to sum it up again for everyone who's missed it, that it's what you eat, you are what you eat, you are how much you eat, when you eat, how you eat, and also how you digest it, and also what you don't eat.
Right. So, Ishi, I think we've covered everything and we've taken as many questions as we could. And for those who just joined us, I think this is the best book. It is written in a very informal kind of a way, which a young adult can read and understand properly. It gives perspective to why these intolerances, why allergies, so, and what to do and what not to do. I think it comes with its view. This is like my go-to kind of a book right now. So,
It also has case studies and a lot of recipes.
yeah, lots of case studies, definitely. And you can also, it's very inspiring at some level also, because when you read other people's stories and you relate them to your own, you know that there's always hope at the end of the tunnel and light at the end of the tunnel. So, thank you, Ishi. As always, it's
Very for joining in, and I hope it was useful. And in case you have queries, you can always write in or message that
you can write to Ishi on our Pixstory account. You can reach out to Ishi on her account or through us also, or at Insta DMs are open whenever you want.
And lastly, I'm going to mention the conference that we are having and a campaign, which is Mera Millet Magic campaign that is being done. So we are pledging everybody must have at least one millet meal every day. So that's the campaign, and
Upend is also promoting like that.
so yeah. And the symposium is happening in January on 20th and 21st. We'll of course talk about it later, but just for your information, it's it's International Symposium on Gut Health and Lifestyle Disorders, and the theme is grain methods.
Thank you so much, Ishi. Thank you so much for coming to Pixstory and talking to our viewers. And I'm very talking to you.